Da-da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, I am Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. It was a rainy day today. I went to the grocery store just for a short walk in between the rain. It was lovely to get some fresh air, but for the most part, it has been an inside day. Not so much online, even though I was. A lot of that was in my contemplation in washing the dishes and sweeping the floor and wiping down things, that I love doing that. That's when I feel that I am most open for real, true lessons. I was having a hard time trying to describe that experience, but if I had to describe it, that's what it is, that when you have those aha moments, when you have that, oh my goodness, I never looked at it that way, you know, and you can go into the topics a little bit without being distracted by other people's perspective, other people's ideas, or topics that are totally off track from where I'm supposed to be. I'm working in emotions, I'm working in dynamic relationships. And so when it comes to what I put out there with my brand, I recognize that's the message. Those are the lessons that I want to get out there. But I was also thinking, Cindy, the way you get your conversations, the way you or have your conversations, the way that you present the topics and the topics themselves and the lessons and how they're divvied out, it's not like the content and the presentations of some of those teachers that I learn from, whether they're professors, whether they're in the thought leadership field, whether they're rabbis or spiritualists or naturalists or Christians. Like it truly, I believe it takes all kinds to make the world because I see pieces of myself everywheres, not in just one religion, not in just one ideas. I don't know if that was by intent of design, but it is truly the way it is. There are amazing people. And because we leave ourselves, hello, Tammy, I see you there, dear. You are safe and sound. 3 tornadoes. Oh my goodness. $50,000 lost electricity and in power in Michigan. Wow. So you guys got hit pretty good. It's not quite over, Tammy, right? Even for Winnipeg and Manitoba, we have got some flooding issues going on, some really heavy rain and thunder and lightning. The weather's still there. We're not really in that tornado scare like we were in the past couple of days. But the weather is not done with us, Tammy, either. And so I'm just going to give you the heads up. 550,000 people lost power in Michigan. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. And for myself, I was able to do my live show. And even though I was a little bit concerned about, have losing my show, that the power would hit and I would lose electricity, I would lose my internet, I would blow up my laptop because I don't have an equalizer plugged into it. And so I was concerned about that. But I rode it through. I just trusted everything was going to be okay. I hope you're okay. I hope you had your electricity. You're with you're with me in the moment, but I also know you watch a lot of your programming on your phone, which is not good for your eyes to watch things on tiny. I'm not giving you heck, Tammy, but at our age, we have to be careful. We have to take care of our eyes, right? And so, just like, when your mother screamed at you to get away from the TV, we were watching TV too close to the screen when we were kids. Oh my goodness, my parents were notorious. Get away from the TV. You're too close to the TV. All worried because TV was fairly new, right? Technology was actually just starting at that point. And actually, I would have to say, computers in the 70s, I think it was like the mid 70s or the end of the 70s that they were actually being used, of course, not by the everyday man, but in technology and in that invention and use, it was being used. It's how they got the astronauts to the moon. And a little bit of tidbit, I don't want to leave where I'm at. I was watching a video, actually, like you do, Tammy. I was watching a video, and I don't want to lose it. It was so good. The serendipities. I don't mean to go off track here, but I really do hope that you're doing good, Tammy, that you're riding these storms. But a little bit of heads up, Mother Nature isn't done with Michigan yet. You're going to have a couple of days of funky weather. I don't know if you guys flood where you are, but we're having some serious problems with the flooding. But I pulled my phone out to say that in this day and age, in 2026, we have the same technology just on our phones than what the first man on the moon had when they took off in their spaceship and went off to the moon in 1967. The exact same amount of technology. We probably have even more now because that was a little bit of tidbit of information I picked up like 10 years ago. So it's probably much more advanced than that. But I was going to say, I didn't want to lose the video that I was watching because I was on my I was setting up my live show on my laptop. I was checking out Rabbi Simon Jacobson because I gave him a suggestion for a topic of conversation. I asked him a question, and I just wanted to see if maybe he had put out a video on it that would be helpful to me in that serendipity, in those breadcrumbs, in those intuitions, in that patterning in my life. And talk about patterning. In holding my phone here, I'm just saying I don't want to lose my spot because I was watching a video that was posted by one of my favorite thought leaders. In all actuality, he was my number one content feed. He was my number one content feed last year. And his videos are long. Like they're an hour long. But he posted and so well, it got suggested to me in any way. And so I got into the video. I'm about halfway through it, but it's blowing my mind when we talk about patterning. Like it's just coming. We're talking about patterning and serendipities and the breadcrumbs that come across our path, in those hunches and in that curiosity when something just keeps coming at us, right? That again, that patterning that it hit me when I was taking in this lesson, that this lesson that he was presenting was almost identical to the lesson that I was giving out yesterday. Now, he's a professional. He has a big crew that help him out. He's super smart, super professional, right? Because this is his business, right? That, and he is a thought leader out there. And in the networks that he runs in, they're very competitive, friendly competitive, not like going for the jugular competitive, but in friendly competition, they compete with each other, right? And that's a good way to make movement, right? Because it's not like it's a race who can get there first, but sometimes it's in the message that you get out there, how important it is in the moment. Sometimes it's in that leaderboard, right? That pyramid that people are in, where you got your bottom layer of entries, and then you go up until you get to the manager and the general manager and the owner, right? And he is the owner of his own company, and he's an entrepreneur. Yes, he's an entrepreneur. I'm not going to give you his name just in case I mess up and it embarrasses him or anything like that. But I was flabbergasted because he is very professional, and his topic in this video was exactly, almost exact, everything almost, right? Was exactly about some of the things that I was talking about. But he has his own style, his own way of doing it. And then of course, it was the topic in my contemplation when I'm going about the little house chores and enjoying my day without being in the content, that I actually reflected in myself and recognized, like, Cindy, you're a vlogger, right? I am a vlogger. The message is going out in any way that I am being present in the moment, whether I'm out on the back roads, whether I'm doing my urban explores, whether I'm doing my provincial park, tours, that, those camping trips and walking the trails, that my style is the vlogging. And in the joy of what I'm doing, the lessons are being divvied out yesterday. So then when we're talking about serendipities and breadcrumbs and coincidences and patterning, like this is exactly what I'm talking about. And when I recognize that, I'm about halfway through the video, I recognize, like, wow, like we must be on the same wavelength, that on the same day, because I did my live show last night, and this is his video from today because it's being suggested to me in the moment. And then I thought, well, maybe this isn't in the moment, maybe this is AI, right, picking up on the topics that I'm talking about and then suggesting content that is relevant. And I recognize that patterning also because the lessons come across my path, the content creators come across my path. And so I just assumed that's what it was. And then I just checked when he had posted this video, and it was 2 days ago, right? So he beat me in that, not in friendly competition or anything, because obviously he doesn't know the topics that I'm vlogging and having conversations about. But it just kind of went poof, like man, you know, these platforms that I hang out in, these topics that I float around in, it really does compound that idea that it takes all kinds to make the world, because we're giving the same message quite often, but we're doing it in so many different styles, right? In different topics. Do you know what I mean? Like, whether I'm watching a metal detecting video, and the content creator who's making this video is divvying out lessons in what he's doing too. And then, I'm here again. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Rabbi Simon Jacobson, who's a rabbi, and I'm looking at his content. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like Cindy, like what do you know about the Jewish community? Right? Not really too much. I mean, I know the candles with all the, right? That one candle with a whole bunch of little candles on it. I know my grandfather had some Jewish ancestry in him. Um, I know they wear the little beanies, but other than that, not too much. But I sit in on his messaging because his messaging is so relatable. It is so in line with the way I'm thinking. And, we talked about this a little bit last week because I actually wrote down, there's my little list there, of all the relevant content creators and teachers and professors out there, thought leadership in different categories. Like I said, I'm not into politics, so I'm not following anybody in politics, but, you know, it doesn't matter what the topic is. Well, it does matter what the topic of conversation is, but I don't have a strong relation to any network, to any one community. I'm for the community of the world, right? I'm a true believer. It takes all kinds to make the world. And, I am a community project. 100%. I feel that I am a community project because, my father was really big on majority rules because each one of us, I come from a dynamic family, each one of us in our family unit was a unique in themselves. And I'm putting that lightly, and some of them to the extremes. I think all of us to the street extremes in some way, right? But each one of us brought a different gift to that family, right? My parents ran the household in archetypes. Each one of us kids were given an archetype and we lived by that. They kind of, right? Because I believe that archetype should actually be designated by whoever or whatever, right? It's not meant for man to say, this is what you are, and this is what you are, and this is what you're going to grow up to be, and this is what you've got to take, and this is what you've got to do, right? It is designated, I think, at birth. And I think a lot of that mix up is when the parents say, I don't think so. I think you're going to be the scapegoat, and you're going to be the empath, and you're going to be the narcissist, and you're going to be the borderline. And in that, the lessons come in. And, you've heard that term, you know, broken empath and failed narcissists. And I believe that's exactly what has happened, is because a parent has designated that, or a guardian has designated that, or a teacher has designated that and compounded that so much that you believe that, but it goes against the grain of who you really are. And it kind of messes you up. It kind of messes you up. I'm grateful, for the lessons that come across my path. And even though it was a difficult upbringing, right? I was given scapegoat, right? But I think there might have been a little bit of fingers in that bowl, in that creation, because I don't believe that I was maybe meant to be that scapegoat, that maybe somebody else was meant to be, waking up to some of these ideas. But because of the lessons that come across our path and the belief, right, which is a big part of it, and, you know, in the questions that we ask in the why, right, that we become something else. And that something else is a mishmash of who we are, what we were meant to be, and the lessons in between. And so when they say broken empath and failed narcissist, right? That's the work. That's the shadow work. That's the untangling of the wires that we've got to do in order to kind of figure out where we stand in that. And it might take years, it might take lifetimes, right? It might just take one person who has that, what's that word I'm looking for? Influence. That one person who has that influence to be able to get that message out. And I think in the end, right, it is the broken empaths, it is the failed narcissists that, because that's the dynamics, isn't it? That is the synthesis, that is the combination of it all, right? That is the rubbing with what's different and picking up things, right? I still believe that, God is trying to kill, God or whoever or whatever is trying to kill the narcissist out of us for that very reason, because we've just gotten a few things wrong and we need to get it sorted out. But I do appreciate the lessons. I do appreciate all those amazing souls out there that I have been able to delve into their content in a comfortable space, meaning in my own home, in my own way, on my terms, without that outside influence, that I get to choose what I resonate with. I get to decide what's true for me. I get to understand my understandings. And one of those understandings is it takes all kinds to make the world. And so I'm grateful for these. I think it's 53, 54 different people in the world in different categories who have added and contributed into that creation of who I've come to understand that I am, and then to be able to overcome what's broken and untangle those wires rather than taking the wire snippers and just saying, okay, we're just going to cut this out. We don't need this and we don't need this. And then we're just one wire. And when I say one wire, we become one wire, right? Just one thing, rather than being able to be multifaceted with many interests and so much curiosity. Because the more we understand, right, the more we can be the example for others, and the more we can help ourselves, and more we can help others, right? And that all came from patterning. That all came from contemplation. That all came to sitting myself in a chair, right? Until my bum was sore, and take in different perspectives. And of course, right, some content won't get through to me because it doesn't catch my interest. So I understand, that my teachers are very professional, right? They're very, I'm not saying tight laced, because they have personalities and families and amazing lives interesting lives themselves, right? But that's their lives. This is my life. And, the way they present, it doesn't interest me in any way, right? I understand. I'm going to do it my way because I understand the people that I'm trying to reach are exactly where I was, right? Where I was. And where I was is still a part of me. And those are the people that I want to help. And if I want to help them, maybe these people will be able to give the message the way that I could. I'm not being all high and mighty. I know better in any way, right? Because I might not be able to reach any of their following in any way. Because, like I said, some people I sit into their content and I would need a dictionary to understand some of these conversations that I had. You guys know I've only recently got into Carl Jung, and he's one of the best psychologists that ever lived. He's been gone for a very long time. He actually died the same year that I was born in 1961. But his content was too much for me. It didn't hold my interest for years. Like he'd come across my path all the time because a lot of my right thought leadership out there in whatever form was very highly appreciative of him and quoted him and referenced his lessons and made lessons of their own created from his lessons and ideas. And here I am feeling like a little bit of a dummy because I'm just not holding anything that he's talking about. But that was only because I needed a few more lessons under my belt, right? Because now I gobble up Carl Jung like it's popcorn. I do. And I find it fascinating, super interesting, which is a totally different way that I looked at it even a year ago. It's in the perisequit. So when I talk about the pyramids, where you got your lower and then you start rising up, I kind of get it, right? Because that's the professionalism, that's the leader at the top. And on the bottom is all the support, but only at the levels that they are in the moment. That doesn't mean they're not going to rise up the pyramid and hip check the leader and take over the world, right? That's quite possible that that happens. But because I understand that it takes all kinds to make the world, that is impossible because we need everybody, right? Everybody has something to contribute. Okay, before we pull a card, because I think that's enough of a lesson. It wasn't even a lesson tonight. I just hit that live button and it just kind of happens. But that's the way I like it. That's the way I'm comfortable. And, that's the way I hope the audience would feel comfortable in hanging out with me, right? We all resonate with who we resonate with. And just like you, right? You might not, or just like me, you might not resonate with my content. And that's okay if my ideas are kind of out there because I only understand that there's people out there whose ideas are more out there than mine. And we're all in a different stage of our evolution, in a different stage of our understanding. But it's only a stage. It doesn't mean that we're not going to get there, right? We're all going to get there, but it's just going to take some time because our interests will only allow us to observe what we're curious about, what we're ready to take in as a perspective, right? As a perception and possibly a perspective that leads to a belief, right? And then after belief, well, there comes understanding. and understanding is that's it. That's the truth, right? But you got to start somewheres, and that somewheres for me is in the serendipities, right? The breadcrumbs, the coincidences, the patterning, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating. I picked a good topic for me. In the beginning, I wasn't too sure about it, right? That idea of purpose from your pain. I wasn't too sure about it. Who wants to go back into the past and dig up all those skeletons, right? I wasn't too keen about it in the beginning. But as you move forward and you see how much better you feel once you got those anchors and those bricks that are tied to your back all snapped off and released, how better you feel, that you become a little bit appreciative, right? Maybe even a little bit more pit bullish, like a piece of raw meat in your mouth that you don't want to let go. Sometimes I feel that way, but I don't beat myself up because I'm not straight laced, that I'm not, in a suit, that I'm not presenting at a podium and being all professional and using big fancy words, right? I can know my topics. I can understand and present if I had to. But this is the way that I prefer because I think in the future that it will suit better for what I really want to do. In this moment, we're exploring the inside, but there are seasons in my life, right? I am optimistic, even more seasons in my life that I will be exploring the more on the outside, and that I'll actually be able to physically meet some of these amazing content creators, these amazing thought leaders, and have little chit chats because, right, I know enough to, at very least, get myself into that conversation. We talked about that last night. Okay, let me come in here. Um, where are we going to start with? Oh, so there is that opportunity that you might flood. Well, take care. I hope your land is okay, Tammy. Was it exciting at the very least, looking out the window at what was going on? Did you enjoy the lightning or the thunder, or did you allow yourself to freak out a little bit at the possibilities? Sometimes it's just in the experience and riding the waves in that moment, right? And if you have that little bit of love for the crazy Mother Nature out there, right? Not so much where anybody's gonna get hurt, no volcanoes and earthquakes and tsunamis, right? And no bad tornadoes and stuff, but where anybody's going to get hurt. But I do like the crazy weather. Uh but you both had the same wave mind links and the same mindset. You were on the same frequencies. Isn't that interesting, Tammy, that you offered up that little tidbit? Oh my goodness. Then I would have to say, Tammy, me and you are also possibly in the same mindset, in some of those same frequencies. Oh my goodness. I didn't know you had those understandings, Tammy. That's absolutely incredible. We learn something new about each other every day. I think that's awesome. You're going to give me a little bit of food for thought there. Food for thought there, Tammy. That's pretty incredible. Your mind is very opened and you understand him now and get him. Ah, yeah, probably that's what it is. But he put the message out before I did, like a couple of days before I did, right? So it was just kind of fluky that it happened in the same week. But yeah, you're probably right there. I get attached to a lot of thought leaders out there, and those connections I am sure put us on the same frequency. That's I never thought of it that way, Tammy. I learn something new all the time. I do resonate with you, Cindy, and I love your channel and you, and that's why I'm here, and I will stay with you. Oh, so amazing! I love it. Hello, how are you? Oh, Eugene's here. Oh my goodness! I hope you're having an amazing night, Eugene. Thank you so much for popping in. I really appreciate that you pop in and keep us company for a few minutes. It's really nice of you. Uh you're very optimistic for me too. Oh, that's really, I appreciate that. I was outside for a little bit listening to the winds. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I went up to the roof. We have 15 floors in the apartment building that I live in, a very big apartment building that I live in, over 200 suites in this building. But I went up to the roof. We have a beautiful roof that you can walk around and see the whole city. And yeah, that just to watch the big black clouds. Of course, and they were going so fast, but of course I picked a moment where it stopped raining. I didn't want to get blown off the roof because it was pretty crazy that one night. Oh my goodness. But this week, yeah, rain all week, right? Just moments of little rainfalls and stuff, but it's nice. It's keeping it cool in here. We're not quite ready to go full blown summer, and I think it will be good for the trees and for the land that moisture is in there. It gives us a better chance at avoiding those wicked forest fires that easily could be happening in our province with this crazy heat. Like we're already in over the 30 degrees and it's only the beginning of June. And usually that crazy weather doesn't start until July, right? And we're kind of a month early in that. So that water is going to be beneficial. Even though we do have some floods, I haven't been into the headline news or anything to delve into it. Now that it's on my mind, I'm going to go in and delve into it a little bit more to see how bad it really is. I know some communities are struggling because, the content kind of passed on. But if I'm into something else, I prioritize, right? Uh, um, I read about frequencies, Cindy. Really, I don't know if resonating is the same idea as frequencies, but that terminology comes across my path all the time. But unless I'm compelled, right? Like Bob Proctor, he talks about frequencies quite a bit, right? And a couple of my content creators and thought leaders out there that I follow, they do talk about frequencies quite a bit. But I haven't been kind of pulled into it like that pit bull with a piece of raw meat in my mouth. I don't feel that compelled feeling to delve into it deeper. Not to say that it won't. I'm like I said, I gobble up Carl Jung like it's popcorn now, and I never thought that I would ever say that. I thought he was just somebody from the past, right? Like when you say, that's how grandpa used to be, right? That was kind of like the feeling that I had about him. And now, his content comes across my path. I have to check it out. I have to sit in a lesson, right? And, it's sometimes quite often just the prerequisites that you don't have the lessons that you need to be able to absorb the next lesson. So it's like doing repeat in high school, right? And that's a good thing, right? They call that bypassing. And I don't want to be bypassing my lessons and getting to the finish line because that would be like cheating, wouldn't it? You know, and it would also take away from the strength to the abilities that I might have if I'm skipping something important. I would hate to think that I was skipping, the important lessons of Carl Jung, right? It just because Carl Jung was actually the one who compounded that idea that I was right where I was supposed to be. Because in this process, there's a lot of second guessing yourself. There's a lot of, wondering, like, are you doing the right thing? Is it necessary? And just like I said, that the way I felt when I was releasing and doing that shadow work and putting myself in the shoes of other people when I was a kid, or putting myself in my own shoes and reliving those experiences. And who wants to do that? But if you can do that, and you can just do it in baby steps or baby mouthfuls of baby food, and till you can just digest so much that you can digest, right? Just do it in baby steps. Oh my goodness, the relief, right? The things that I don't worry about, the things that I understand, the things that I can forgive, and the things that I can say is, yeah, I was right about that, right? 100% true. Or just say, that's what it meant. Or they didn't mean that. They were hurt. Or they truly did mean that. Right? And there's that too, right? But it's important. I really do think it's important. And these are things they don't teach in school. And your parents are only one, well, two perspectives, right? They come from two different family upbringings. So they're going to have two different perspectives that come together. And those are the perspectives that you're going to grow up in, that are going to be influencing you. And, quite often your parents do such a good job, right? They do such a good job of it that it becomes your perspectives until it's not. If you're lucky enough, if you're curious enough, if you're determined enough, and if you're brave enough. Yeah. Um, But at the same time, I do believe in coincidences and at the same mind links and ESP and deja vu. Yeah, I had deja vu when I was a kid. ESP and that mind reading, I do believe is for me, it's in the pattern reading. I read patterns, I read faces, I read mannerisms, right? And people might think it's mind reading, but really for myself, I don't go that deep. But I know people who do that, and they're good at it, right? um uh oh, did I miss the fire engines, Tammy? I was so deep in my conversation. I'm just grabbing my cards here. I was just deep in the conversation that I was having. But a lot of that came today to me. And then just hitting that live button and not having a topic of discussion. But again, I had a video on pause. It was part of the contemplation that I was having today about the type of content creator that I am. And in truth, right, I want to keep it casual. I want to keep it um, genuine. And, I see some of these content creators and they're very genuine, right? They are very who they are, but they are very professional in what they're doing. That's not to say that I might not get to that point, but I'm not quite sure if I want to get to that point, because then I lose the audience that I want to connect with, right? Because they're in the same pothole as where I was. And that was one of the lessons, you teach where you were at the stage that you were at. And yeah, I delve in pretty deep. So the stage that I was at yesterday is not the stage as I was today. And that's the truth, right? So I don't expect that people will keep up to me in that way. right? Because they don't have that interest. They don't have that capability. They're not recognizing the patterning in the movement that they're making in their life. But, right, you can go back into those old videos like Tabby does, right, and see where I was at. Maybe there's a message there for you, right? I don't go back into those old lives of mine very often. I don't, to tell you the truth, because I'm more about the growth. I'm more about where I'm at right now rather than where I used to be. But I know where I used to be, there were tons of lessons in that. And I kind of mushed them in to what I'm doing now. But change is always present. A little bit of my Welch's grape Sprite. So refreshing, you guys. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad I got on that. It's going to save me lots of calories. It's non caffeinated. So I'm drinking less coffee and it's just kind of naturally happening. So instead of having coffee, I got a coffee here too, but right, I'm going for the Welch's grape Sprite instead. And there's no caffeine, barely any calories, just the little bit that's in the grape juice, natural, and the grapes are great antioxidants, so it's much better for me. Yeah, I'm really happy I stumbled on to that one. Okay, you guys, let's grab a card. It's 54 powerful words. If you've never hung out with me, sometimes the word that I pull is pertinent to the conversation that I've had. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes I can work it in because I know I got to work it into the title, right, of my video. So if you ever say, "Well, she didn't really talk about this word," except for the 2 minutes at the end, but that's the catch, isn't it? I understand I have 5 seconds to catch your attention, and I hope in the process of whatever conversation that we have and the underlining lessons that we pick up just in that regular conversation, that vlogging, that at the end, right, maybe the word is not so pertinent, right? That maybe that word is just pertinent to you in your moment, in this moment, right? That's something to think about. Okay, you guys, let's pick a card. Oh, I'm enjoying the breeze, you guys. I got my window open, the air conditioning's off. It's oh, just amazing. Just amazing. Here's the word. Vision is the potential that has not yet been realized. In this moment, I'm a vlogger. In this moment, this is what I do. But as the seasons change, right? I change. And just as much as I didn't understand Carl Jung a year ago, I gobble up his content like it's popcorn now. So that vision doesn't have to be something that's 20 years from now. It doesn't even have to be in this lifetime, right? Remember what that little quote that I made that's on my fridge right now, it's not about getting what you want. It isn't. It's the joy of the pursuit of it, right? It's that movement forward until, like I said, it's been realized. And you realized it because you were just making that movement. You weren't in a big race. You weren't trying to take people out. You weren't bypassing the lessons. You were just living your life, right? And the vision was, what are you going to do tomorrow? What are you going to do today? What do you need to get done this week? Right? And the vision in this moment is not going to be the vision that you're going to have next year, 10 years, a lifetime from now, maybe. Right? We're all going to get there. We're all going to get there. We're just in different stages in the moment. And we got a lot of backtracking to do, right? I noticed, right? In the bypassing of some of those lessons that I can delve into a little bit deeper because this topic of frequency that Tammy just brought up, that's not something I really delve into, right? The resonance, the resonance, right? That connection that I have with what I'm doing, right, is what's important to me. I put one foot in front of another. That's how I move, right? One foot in front of another. And that vision will be realized. Vision is the potential that has not yet been realized, that I have not yet realized. I have goals, I have dreams, right? But whether or not they materialize, I don't know. But I'm going to enjoy the views. I'm going to enjoy the experiences. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to do the baby steps, right? I'm just going to take that spoonful of yucky baby food and I'm just going to cover my eyes and I'm going to digest, whether it's just a little bit, right? Until I get to the point where I'm gobbling it up like popcorn. Okay. And tonight on Friday night, June 12th, 2026, the powerful word for tonight is vision. That's my vision for the moment. And yeah, right? Don't kill yourself. We don't have to get things done yesterday, right? Like I said, sometimes we just want that couch and the remote control. It's comfortable, it's safe, it's not rocking the boat, but the sink is filling up with dishes. It's about doing what you can do in the moment, just getting up, taking in a perspective, picking up the phone, making a phone call, going for a walk, and bumping into somebody and having a conversation. You never know where that opportunity for something new to come into your life, right? Because whoever or whatever is very creative in that. Okay, you guys. That's my good cheer. It's Friday. I don't present online in any way on Saturdays. Saturday is for me, it's not like I'm not online, but I'm not presenting online. It's going to be a rainy day tomorrow, so the weather says. If it's not a rainy day tomorrow, I might go for a bike ride. If not, it's going to be a day for myself, possibly in contemplation in the many chores that I've got to get done around the house and online. You guys have a great night. We'll see you Sunday night if you want to pop in for Chatters Live. I have a great crew on that live show. If I don't see you on Sunday night, maybe we'll see you Monday night, right? That's my Monday to Friday show. This one, 9 p.m. Central. You guys have a great weekend.